Okay, these came off a Hyundai Ioniq, which was kind of unusual really. When you look at the pattern, it was kind of unusual, and it's got quite a thick nut on the top there that just spins if you put a socket on it. These things just spin around, and the way to get these off is to get a cold chisel across the top here and just keep whacking it, or ideally the better option is just to get a little like Dremel with a metal bit on the top. You can either just drill a tiny little hole first in the center and then get an angle grinder bit on your Dremel, which is like a disc, and you just go work all the way across so it looks something like this. Okay, so if you imagine now, it looks something like that. So you've drilled a little hole in the top, and then you angle grind it the other way around, and then all you do is just get a cold chisel in the top there, in that bit there, ideally as wide as that bit that you've ground out, and you just wallop it. And you need to wallop it quite hard because it's pretty thick stuff, this is. It's actually quite thick aluminium, you know, and what you'll find is that it'll split apart. You'll notice on the back of these little cap that it's got like a groove. Now that groove sits in here on the actual nut itself. So you can't just stick a socket on, because one, it'll just spin around like that. Just an ordinary socket, it'll just spin around. And if once it's stuck on there, if you try and wangle it up and down to get your socket off, what happens is that you'll actually break off the top part of the locking wheel nut. This bit here that's exposed, that's sticking out, that bit there just shears off, so it becomes flush with the back of the actual locking wheel nut down there. So that all of this section here, that there just shears off. So what you don't want to do, you don't want to put a socket on it only to find that it spins round and round, and then as you're trying to get that socket off, you're wangling it up and down, left and right, up and down, trying to get your socket back off it. And all it'll do is that it'll snap this cover off, and then it'll snap that section off there, so you're in worse trouble. Now what you do is you just ideally drill a tiny little pilot hole there, just something for the grinder to bite in. You know, your little Dremel cordless drills will do it, or any drill really with a tiny little grinder. You want a grinder that's about the size of a 50p piece, ideally, and then you just grind the top of it. Where is it? Just across there, just grind it, and then get your cold chisel in it, whack it, and it will split it like that, and you'll find it'll just pop off. And once that comes off, you're left with that, and then an impact socket on the top, you know, just reshapes it. It was originally round, but if you just stick an impact socket on the top, keep whacking it so it shapes it to the size and shape of the impact socket, it'll come off without a problem. Get them off within a couple of minutes, not a problem. So they originally kind of looked like that, and I've found with these Ioniqs, these Hyundai Ioniqs, that they're coming two sizes strange. They might even come in more, I don't know, but the ones that I've encountered have been this size, which is sort of, I don't know, like about 14mm or something like that wide, and then there's a smaller size as well. They look exactly the same, but just a smaller size locking wheel nut. where this dome is a lot smaller. But the same principle applies, that you just ideally drill a little pilot hole in the top if you can. It's quite thick. It's quite a thick cap. But you drill a pilot hole in the top there, then grind it with a little Dremel or cordless drill with a angle grinder type of disc on the top that's designed for cutting metal. It cuts through it pretty good, so it looks like that. You can see the top there, how the top actually is quite thick. It's actually quite thick. You can't just put a cold chisel and start smashing it. It just won't go through. It'll take you for ages and ages to get through that with a cold chisel, and you could be damaging the rim as well because it'll slide off the top. That's why you need to ideally drill a little pilot hole or get your angle grinder in there. You'll see it's quite thick in the top section, so get your angle grinder in there, and then once that's done, it just pops off. You split it with your cold chisel, it splits apart, and what you're left with is this sort of thing here. Okay, then you just whack your socket on top and it'll come straight out. There's just one thing I forgot to mention about these Hyundais with these particular type of wheel nuts, is that they have this wheel trim on it, these wheel covers. You cannot get these trims off with the nuts on. The only way you can get them off is to take the nuts off first. And what that does, it creates a problem because there's so little space to work with these covers on. So if you're thinking that you're going to get like a crowbar behind these rims and pop these rim covers and just pop them off like you normally would do with an ordinary car, so you can got more space to work, no go. It just won't work. You'll just end up snapping and bending these trims. So don't even bother trying. Just work on the nuts in situ. Otherwise, you're going to end up in a world of pain. Just leave the trims alone and just work on those wheel nuts.